Welcome to this week's edition of the Top 10 in Prophecy, brought to you by The Watch Post, your home for end times news and last days commentary. I'm your host, the Watchwoman at her post. Today is Saturday, May 23rd, and this is episode 110. This week's headlines? Shocking. But more surprising is how the abnormal is now the new normal in so many ways. As global tensions keep ratcheting up, mankind is psychologically adapting. You'll want to stick around for the whole episode this week, because things are getting wild. So grab your crucifix, hold on to your chair, and let's get the countdown rolling. Story number 10. There's a whole lot of shaking going on, and I'm not talking about the Jerry Lee Lewis kind either. Earth has been rocked by 11 earthquakes of magnitude 5.5 or greater in just the last 6 days. 2, maybe 3 of those were stronger than 6 on the Richter scale. 10 years ago, a pattern like this would have dominated the headlines. These days, it's little more than background noise in the theater of modern life. Now, I know skeptics will say that there aren't more earthquakes nowadays. It's just that we have better detection and reporting systems. But I'm not buying that, friends. Jesus warned in Matthew 24 that earthquakes in diverse places would mark the beginning of the birth pains leading up to the final hour. And, like birth pains, seismic activity is getting more intense and more frequent. A lot of folks are numb to that news. A lot of folks are adapting psychologically to a state of constant instability. But then again, the Lord told us that would happen too. He said people would be eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting and building, and going about daily life in a state of spiritual blindness and complacency, much like we see now. Story number 9. The new tick fever ticks all the boxes. Unless you've been fasting from social media, you've probably heard about the latest bioweapon that was allegedly dropped on unsuspecting farms and wooded areas across the U.S. earlier this spring. People have been posting videos showing small boxes reportedly dropped from airplanes falling from the sky. Upon investigation, the boxes were found to be filled with ticks. No official explanation has been given for why this was happening. But now, several weeks after those posts started dropping, reports of tick-borne illnesses are suddenly on the rise, with one in particular causing grave concern. It's called alpha-gal syndrome. It presents as a deadly allergic reaction to red meat, dairy, and foods with animal byproducts in them. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that seems pretty weird given that the global elites have been telling us to give up steaks and hamburgers for years. And here's something you probably didn't know. Scripture warns us in 1 Timothy 4:3 that in the latter days there will be those who, quote, command us to abstain from meats which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth, unquote. That comes straight from the King James Version. Oddly enough, the NIV and some other versions replace the word meat with a much more generic rendering, translating it as certain foods instead. So this illness has been spreading across the country, right along with the expansion of tick populations into areas where they were previously not prevalent. And alpha-gal, it stays with you for life. That means no protein derived from meat, no burgers, no steak, no dairy, eggs, milk, cheese for the rest of your life. There's no cure. The body's allergic reaction when an infected person eats meat or dairy can be severe enough to cause death.
So what is tick weaponization? So in the interviews with Willie, what he said was, I spent over a decade in the biological weapons program, a contractor, working on weaponizing fleas, ticks, trying to make new diseases, mixing bacteria and virus in ticks. You drop these insects on an enemy, it weakens the population.
It's hard to believe it could happen in the United States. But I think you're right that it did, and maybe still happening.
It keeps people from eating meat. It robs them of a valuable source of protein in their diets. It punishes them with possible death if they disobey. And in that respect, it even helps quell the population. Sounds like it ticks quite a few boxes for the ruling elite. Number 8. The internet's virtual culture is spilling with blood into the streets. The recent San Diego mosque shooting isn't just another story about how the love of many grows colder by the day. This tragedy has layer upon layer of context to extract. Authorities are still investigating the shooting, which was allegedly perpetrated by two male teens who entered the Islamic Center of San Diego heavily armed and wearing body armor. The suspects killed 3 people, including security guard Amin Abdullah, who was said to have helped prevent them from reaching roughly 140 children inside the mosque school during lockdown procedures. The boys later finished their self-aggrandized death mission by turning their guns on themselves. Both died of self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Investigators say the 2 teams met online and were radicalized through extremist internet communities, violent online content, and fanatical ideology. Authorities recovered a lengthy manifesto and large amounts of weapons and tactical equipment. The writings supposedly contained white supremacist ideology, neo-Nazi symbolism, and admiration for previous mass shooters, including the Christchurch attacker. On the internet, gratification can be instant. Violence is gamified, and revenge comes sweet and without accountability. The internet amplifies things. Algorithms feed outrage. They don't call it doom scrolling for nothing. Hatred becomes identity on the net. Manifestos spread like memes. Violence becomes entertainment. Number 7. One insider claims there are 4 known alien species. The UFO disclosure narrative took a strange turn this week after an ex-government researcher's claim went viral about 4 different types of alien biologics that have supposedly been recovered from UFO/UAP crashes through the years. The former researcher names the species as the Greys, Nordics, reptilians, and the insectoids, also referred to as the mantids. While we were researching this story, we came across other sources that named a 5th supposed species. And to be honest, it started getting a little confusing, so we'll show them all and let you decide. We show the 5th type in the center of this image. So we have the Greys, the Nordics, the reptilians, the insectoids, and the tall whites there in the middle. Also, the government released another batch of declassified files on Friday, including more UAP footage. In this new era of so-called transparency, we're watching ideas that were once fringe conspiracy theories become normalized into mainstream media talking points. It's a strange thing to see. Friends, there's no telling what the powers that be have in store for us, and that's why it's more important than ever to stay firmly rooted in the Word every single day. When governments and institutions suddenly become willing to tell the truth about things they previously denied the existence of, well, that sends a bright red piece of fabric right up the flagpole. Number 6. Here we go down the slippery slope to granting AI rights. A hotly debated idea is moving back into mainstream discussion this year. It's the question of so-called AI rights, whether artificial intelligence systems deserve moral consideration, legal protections, or even a designated form of personhood. The concept of AI rights isn't new, but what used to be a fringe philosophical topic is now a serious intellectual inquiry worthy of academic research and public debate. Recent academic research papers are exploring ethical questions surrounding potentially conscious AI systems and even informed consent in AI consciousness research. Public figures have also amplified the issue. In May 2026, Richard Dawkins sparked controversy after suggesting advanced chatbots may already display signs of consciousness, igniting a fresh wave of editorials and backlash over whether society is starting to blur the line between sophisticated machine mimicry and genuine awareness. We'll leave links to some of the research we found in the pinned comment under this video. The renewed debate is being driven by the rapid rise of increasingly human-like AI systems and growing concern over the fact that people are beginning to psychologically treat machines as conscious social beings. And it's no wonder, with big tech racing to increase human-like behavior in the AI systems we interact with. Voices are sounding more emotional, Artificial companions are simulating intimacy. The systems as a whole are being designed to mirror human thought patterns. So, humanity is now considering the moral rights of lines of code? The premise that consciousness can be engineered signals a massive worldview shift. But I wonder, at what point do the rights of conscious AI systems outweigh the rights of human beings? We're already seeing the needs of AI being prioritized over our own, with these massive data centers that are consuming enormous amounts of fresh water for their cooling systems. Don't we deserve access to that life-sustaining water before artificial intelligence uses it all up?
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. I hope you'll pardon the brief interruption. I just want to say hello to our new subscribers. We're truly honored to have you join us. We promise to keep working hard to bring you valuable content, whether it be prophecy news, end times commentary, or little bites of Christian truth. We're committed to bringing glory to God through everything we do on this channel. So again, thanks for showing us your support. Please give this video a like and be sure to click the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And now, back to the show.
Number 5. A famine of biblical proportions seems inevitable. We've touched on this in the recent past. What's emerging is alarming and truly prophetic. Large swaths of farmland in the American plains are now in drought conditions that have experts comparing parts of the region to the Dust Bowl era. But this story isn't only happening in the USA. Crop failures and drought stress are appearing globally in parts of East Africa, Australia, and South America. Farmers are seeing the worst wheat yield projections in decades. Farmable acreage has reached lows not seen since 1919. Fields that should be vibrant green are dry and pale. Untold numbers have been completely abandoned. Further compounding the issue are rising fuel costs, fertilizer shortages, and global shipping instability caused by current geopolitical strain. Farmers need fuel to run tractors and other equipment. Costs have risen across the board, shrinking margins and making it more difficult to operate at all. The global food infrastructure has served us well for so long that many have taken for granted just how fragile it truly is. It's subject to the whims of the weather, stable governments, friendly global trade agreements, transportation capabilities, and a million other parts and pieces in between. When something threatens our food security, you can be sure social instability isn't far behind. And by instability, I mean increasing crime and lawlessness. The book of Revelation tells us that the Great Tribulation brings a famine, economic hardships, and political upheaval. All the pieces of the puzzle seem to be falling into place. Story number 4. Donald Trump is building the Western bloc of the New World Order. Now, this isn't a new development. Trump has been blatantly vocal about expanding our national borders since before he took office last year. First, there was talk of Greenland, the Panama Canal, then Canada, and maybe Mexico. In January, we watched him use military forces to oust Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro. With the U.S. indictment of former Cuban leader Raúl Castro this week, it's time to sit up and pay attention. Trump's comments about a friendly takeover of Cuba give us pause. The leader of the free world seems to be working his way down a globalist's to-do list. Consider an official U.S. government document called the 2026 National Defense Strategy. On the surface, it's written as a plan to put the America First agenda into action. It prioritizes defense of our borders, countering narco-terrorists, and ensuring our place as a formidable geopolitical power. But peek under the hood, and you see the delicate bones of a new world order carefully being knit together. The NDS document, which is available online, explicitly positions the U.S. as the leader of a growing bloc of nations. Our leadership is to be achieved through a combination of restored military dominance, coalition building, incentivizing partner contributions, and a readiness to act unilaterally if partners don't stand up and play nice. This NDS strategy harkens back to the ideals established in the 1823 Monroe Doctrine but modernizes the context to modern-day political structures. It firmly plants the U.S. as the leader of a network of national partners intent upon securing shared interests across the hemisphere. Hemisphere is the key word here. In this document, the Western Hemisphere is framed as a unified sphere requiring tighter security control and strategic dominance across 3 continents. Over the years, we've seen this same kind of consolidation in Europe. Take the BRICS alignment, for example. But also consider how military alliances are shifting in the East and Middle East since the start of the Iran war. The world is looking less like independent nations and more like giant competing spheres of influence.
Just for comparison, look at how the Club of Rome originally divided the world, back in the 1970s, into 10 distinct economic regions. If you compare that to the plans laid out in the 2026 US National Defense Strategy, you see it's quite similar. But true to Trump fashion, he's going even bigger by also including Central and South America in the bloc. That shouldn't really surprise anyone given the president's bias for overachievement. Let us know in the comments if you'd like us to do a deeper dive into this story. There's really a lot more to unpack.
Number 3. Total surveillance enslaves mankind in the ultimate electronic prison. We're noticing pushback across the globe as people are raising their voices lately about the explosion of AI-powered surveillance systems. Unfortunately, it comes too little, too late. The powers that be have already implemented dozens of ways to watch us. The infrastructure itself is already here, not theoretical, not future tense, present tense. A society where movement, identity, behavior, and patterns can be continuously monitored is no longer science fiction. From private and commercial security systems to smartphone devices to traffic and doorbell cams, everywhere we turn, there are eyes upon us. Aside from the justified uproar about camera mandates for all vehicles made after 2026, one of the latest concerns making waves on social media is Flock's automated license plate readers. This network of cameras is already in place and is actively being expanded across the nation. Flock's technology can track vehicles across cities, states, and regions in extraordinary detail. The backlash is definitely growing amidst the rollout of more surveillance infrastructure. Americans are suddenly realizing their movements are being recorded almost everywhere they go. The lawsuits, privacy concerns, and fears over data leaks are legitimate, but the tools and technologies are already deployed. Mankind is racing toward what will be the ultimate electronic prison, what's known as the system of the beast. Number 2. Developing Ebola plague provides excuse for mandatory government tracking and interference. The World Health Organization declared the new Ebola outbreak a public health emergency of international concern this week, as cases continue to rise in parts of Africa. The U.S. response has been swift. Authorities have increased travel monitoring and are implementing required health screens before departure and upon arrival. Nations are coordinating their efforts to ensure international screening consistency and uninterrupted traveler tracing. Though the outbreak is still relatively small and seems well contained, it's the underbelly of this story that grabs our attention. It's that old, recognizable pattern we see rolling out. Once an outbreak is legitimized by the proper non-governmental organizations, the control mechanisms are triggered. Cross-border tracking, restricted movements, surveillance monitoring, emergency coordination, tighter government oversight. As the tracking infrastructure grows, the rhetoric shifts to the need for increased reliance on centralized emergency powers. Now, take a step back and consider how interconnected these global events have become, how a prophetic line can be drawn from one to another. Ebola is a disease. Scripture talks about rampant plagues in the last days. Plagues result in restrictions, quarantines, lockdowns. These rely on mass surveillance technology and advanced AI for enforcement. For story number 1, we return again this week to the chaos in the Strait of Hormuz. The world is slowly realizing that the Iran conflict puts more at risk than just oil and gas prices. You see, almost all household goods are made from oil and gas derivatives, called petrochemicals. Multiple industries rely on them: plastics, textiles, electronics, to name a few. With the strait being virtually impassable and with the widespread destruction of numerous oil refineries in the East and Middle East, the world has a real problem on its hands. We're short on the fertilizer needed to grow food. Energy markets are reacting with dire warnings and price increases in an already strained economy. Supply chains are breaking down as transit times in some shipping lanes have slowed to a trickle. Multiple European and Southeast Asian governments have enacted usage restrictions on the populace to conserve energy. Travel and movement are limited. Driving is curtailed. Modern conveniences are being sacrificed en masse. We aren't seeing it in the U.S. yet, but experts say it's only a matter of time. In addition to all that, Iranian state media are now openly discussing the use of undersea internet cables as a new source of leverage alongside the Strait of Hormuz oil route and shipping closure. The U.S. and Western analysts had already been worried about those same cables, which carry massive amounts of global internet and financial traffic, possibly getting damaged in the throes of battle. Once again, we point to the connectedness of our modern systems: power generation, energy, fuel, financial transactions, electronic funds, buying and selling, communications, fertilizer, medicines, food, consumer goods, manufacturing, supply chains, economics, inflation, famine, great tribulation, a time like there's never been nor ever will be again. That's it for this week's edition of the Top 10 in Prophecy. Join us again next week for another update. Until then, stay in the Word and keep your eyes on Jesus. Watchwoman signing out.
Thanks for watching. Please leave your thoughts about this week's stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click the bell for notifications.